All right, welcome to High School Hoops Take 2, because I messed up Take 1, episode 64. So I apologize. We missed one a couple weeks ago. I have been sick as a dog, so I apologize that we lost. I think it was 2 weeks ago we lost an episode, so I apologize to all the listeners for that. That's the first time in like 2.5 years I've missed a week. So I apologize, but that's how sick I was. So Coach said I used the microphone during practice. So the voice is kind of coming back. You'll love this before we get to talk about our sponsors. My wife turns to me maybe a week ago, and she looks at me and she knows I'm sick, and she goes, "I can't believe your voice can get any deeper." She goes, "I didn't think it was possible." We've been married for 20 plus years. I go, "Well, that's how sick I am." But yeah. Anyway, so big shout out to our sponsors, Dr. Dish. Make sure you go check it out. I won't say that we were 11 for 23 in the first game because of Dr. Dish, but it didn't hurt. I'll tell you. Yeah, it was pretty good. And our best
from the 3-point line, right, Coach?
3-point line.
Yes.
3-point line, 11 for 23. That's pretty good.
You're just validating all the time you say it's the best machine out there. So
I'm telling you. And
don't lie. Come on, you're a stats teacher.
And the best shooter was 1 for 5. That tells you. So it was all, I mean, I think it was like 5 different guys. And it's like, it's just repetition. It's just, It's the practice. And then also go over and check out teachhoops.com for coaches who want to get better. Yeah, it would be a good stocking stuffer. That's all I'll just tell you. Good stocking stuffer. All right. So episode 64. What's episode 64, Coach?
I'm trying to be more strategic in selecting questions that are really relatable for the time period that we are, where we are in our season. And so I think it's really important. And as a teacher, I constantly evaluate routines. And so what are your routines for home and away games for your players? And how do you establish those routines? Do you have routines? Do you, have you changed them in the past? Kind of going over the home and away procedure and routine of what it's like to on a game night.
Oh, it's crazy because I always I have a list, first of all. And we go through everything. We go through when they're supposed to get taped, where they're supposed to shoot, when they're supposed to go in the locker room, where they're supposed to sit, how they're supposed to be dressed. I mean, I like it to be the same every game. So it doesn't matter if you see us in right now at the beginning of the season or you see us in February, we'll be doing the same thing. They know that we have it down to a routine of, where they sit. What they get like what we refer to as a 2-minute warning in the locker room. So I send an assistant in. They get a 2-minute warning before I come and talk. One thing I have added is a minute of reflection. So that's a new thing that I basically added this year, that before I go through my talk, first of all, a couple of the coaches and I tend to go to the bathroom right away when we come into the locker room because we're getting old and our prostates are getting larger. But in all seriousness, I basically say, I want you to leave the world out there away, and I want you to focus on what we have to do for the next hour. So I did it in volleyball season, and it was so useful. It's almost a meditation thing, but these kids are not used to silence, to non-chaos, to the noise. So we just take a minute and I say, I want you to just listen to your breathing, think about what you have to do. Dead silence in the locker room, 1 minute. And it seemed that my volleyball guys kept asking for it because it kind of, we do it at the beginning of practice too. Just because I want them to leave the girlfriend and the test they have tomorrow and all that alone. And then this is supposed to be the fun time. So that minute is kind of the –
So that minute, is that something that you got from somebody else? Because for me, in the district that I work with, it reminds me a lot of what's called mindfulness. And so we really, as a district, we try to incorporate mindfulness in everything that we do with our classroom. And so it's like reflection and an opportunity for kids to work on their breathing and to get their mindset to be successful. And I don't remember in the past, I think Coach Unplugged, or I talked to, I think it was Mike Lee was the person that I interviewed a while ago about mindfulness, incorporating mindfulness in a basketball program. And I find that really interesting that you incorporate that now in your program.
And it is, it's one of those new things. We have the whole when you check in, talk to your teammate, tell them who they're guarding, hand them a towel. We do all those kind of rituals. It's funny though, because I had a pretty senior laden team last year, but I had a lot of juniors that played. So it's like, you still got to go through all the, here's how we do pregame. Here's how we do halftime. Here's how warmups is going to go. Here's how, the national anthem. So we leave no stone unturned when it comes to that stuff. And I was telling you, we had a game yesterday. I always like to have one game at least before a conference game, just so we can get some of that routine stuff out. I don't want to have to worry about that in a big game beforehand. How are we working timeouts? How are we working 30 seconds? I always tell them that's, hustle over for a full timeout, hustle the locker room. Because I think I have a routine of talking to my coaches. Doesn't matter if it's a 30s, sometimes I don't, but most of the time I'll grab them real quick. Fulls, we always talk before I go into the huddle. Halftime, I talk to them before we go in the locker room, just so that I hear all the different voices. I want to hear what they're saying and what they're seeing rather than what I'm obviously seeing. But yeah, I could send anybody that wants a list, but I have a list of, literally how the bus works, how all that stuff. I think it's important. I'm not like, I want them there on a specific time for a home game, but it's more just, I think the kids like, you teach young kids like routines.
They do.
There's comfort in it. That they know that this is how it's gonna happen. This is when they're gonna get taped. This is how the pregame's gonna go. And even last night, I said before the game, when the game's over, shake hands and then come right to the locker room. Don't hang with Aunt Sally. You can go back out in a second when I'm done talking, but let's come in, let's have some reflection, and then you can go out, and talk to your friends and do all that kind of stuff. So, but they don't, unless you tell them that, they're not thinking along those lines at all.
Yeah, I think that the whole thing I just think of is you got to expect them they know nothing.
Yes.
And
yes.
And so as much as you've even had them for 3 or 4 years on the varsity or in a high school team, they know how warm-ups are and how I want them to be and how they're going to come in a timeout. And I think you have to even take time within your practice to review those expectations, or after practice and have meetings and conduct that. You just can't assume that they know everything, because they don't. And
Right.
Another thing is that you can't also assume that they're going to read over something and do it. You actually have to physically do it in practice. Okay. And so, I don't know, I kind of look at it as like they're just like bigger kids,
Right.
They're in high school, but like really you need to teach them the way that you want them to do things. So, how they look, if you want them to look nice, telling them to look nice is one thing. They need pictures and you need to see those things. What does your uniform look like? How do you guys want to do, have your timeout set up? You want a certain group of people in the middle? How do you want them all wrapped around? Like all those certain things, like they're questioning it and they don't know, and they just want to know.
Right.
They just want to know everything is more than you think. They don't want to assume anything. They just want to be told. They want to have routine so they can be successful. Because
Right.
I think if you leave all those things open for them, it becomes a distraction. It becomes more confusing for them, and they start thinking about other things. And it's like you talked about that mindful minute that you have with those kids. It's like to get their mind in zone. And if you don't have those things in place for them, they're not going to be as successful when it comes to game time. I think really when it comes to home and away procedures, it's what you emphasize as a coach and then consistent routines and staying with it. How you do it is completely up to you. If you
Right.
want your guys there at 5:45 and sit there to watch the JV, that's your routine, but it's got to be consistent.
And we do it in our gym. It's not an old gym, but we have like 3 rows on the baselines. Basically, we have lots on the sidelines, but like 3, and that's where they sit. And I said, it's not time to be talking to your girlfriend. It's time to be with your teammates, focused, all that stuff. You'll have plenty of time for that. But you're right. I think they like it. I think they need to know those.
What about cell phones? What's your policy on cell phones?
Pregame, I don't care. I don't see them in the locker room, so they just know I'm not going to see them. It's whatever. I mean, it's part of their world. It's like I'm not going to go and collect them on the bus. So we do talk. Like, let's say the last one was a Saturday game. We do talk. When we have our walkthrough and our pregame and all of those things. I do talk about, okay, it's noon, you're going home and you got to be back here in 5 hours. If you're going to go home and take a nap, do it right away, get something to eat, blah, blah, blah. Because otherwise, if you wake up at 5:15 from a nap, you're going to be groggy when the game starts in an hour and a half. You're not going to be at your fullest. So I love pregame naps. I don't get them necessarily on the road as much, but Coach K always takes a nap before the game because he says you're the freshest, right, when you wake up in the morning.
For sure. What about dressing, like for home and away games?
So it depends. So they can earn the right to wear travel gear and things like that.
Yeah.
I have just because I have a wide range of kids. So I like the last game we did business casual, and no one knew what business casual was, which was great. So it's a way for me to teach them what business casual is.
Yeah.
Rather than I said, you don't have to wear a tie, but business casual, slacks and a nice shirt. And
right.
Then they're asking, is that a t-shirt? I go, no, you would not, for business casual, you would not wear a t-shirt or a hoodie.
Right.
So it's good. So there's life lessons to be taught in those things too. Yeah, I mean, I'm dealing with socioeconomic that runs the gamut a little bit more.
Exactly.
So it's a little bit hard with some of that stuff, but I've seemed to make it work the last 20 years. But I just want them to look nice. We're taking care of business at this point. We're going to work, and that's why I tell them I dress up because that's my work clothes. Like, we're going to work. So
for sure.
Yeah. So I think that's a big part for me.
I think overall it's just establishing a routine that it's going to be successful.
Yeah.
And what you're going to follow, and assuming that that they don't know anything.
Yeah. That's the same on the court too when you're doing that stuff. Don't assume no base knowledge, and you'll be much better off. All right, cool. All right, we'll talk next week, Coach.
Sounds good. Thanks.
All right, bye.